Welcome back! Now it's time to get cutting stuff. So today I got some new stuff, including some lighting, and other lighting that you can't see. And in case you haven't noticed, I'm standing on a bunch of sheet metal. I went and got a big sheet, 4 feet by 10 feet of cold rolled steel, as well as some square tubing, I know what it's called, over there. And I've sort of been doing this. I put the patterns down, arrange them kind of tightly, but with some space, cut out a chunk, then I outline the pieces, then I cut those out, and then once I have the rough chunks, it's more easy to hold in my hands and cut out kind of the details of the pieces, and that's how I'm making these pieces. Then I file the edges so I don't cut myself again, and yeah, that's kind of how I do it. And at the risk of sounding like a cooking show, here are some I did earlier. These are those little bits of fenders. These are sides of the battery area compartment. One of the fenders, only one, kind of the bulk of the firewall, bottom of the battery thing area. And so far, I'm quite pleased with how it's going. Haven't lost too much blood, although all my cutting tools seem to leave a razor-sharp edge along everything, which I have to fix with the file. But we're going to try replicating all of that today, sort of, in that panel there. I'm not going to film every single thing because it takes forever. And I really don't want to edit all that, so we're probably just going to do this piece. To start with, I already did the cut. And the cool thing about these cuts is my snips over there cut a very nifty spirally pattern. It's like a little spring out of razor sharp metal. So that's fun. I was cutting it on the floor specifically because this giant piece of sheet metal is very flexible. I don't know if you can see. Not very much rigidity there. On top of that, it's very heavy, and right next to it is this, my very shiny car. And this, another shiny car. And I don't want that falling against my shiny cars. And as one of my cousins once said when he was highly inebriated, you can't fall off the floor. But basically what I do, I line it up so that this long straight edge is along a straight edge. Kind of draw a rough cut. The snips take like a 1/4 inch wide kerf. It's a rather large kerf. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm probably only going to use half of this thing. And the reason for that is because the metal shop nearby only sells 20 gauge in a 4 by 10 foot sheet, and it only sells that square tubing over there in 20-foot sections. Can you believe that? I think he was just trying to upsell me on bigger sheets. The benefit is it was extremely cheap. It was like, if I went online and tried to find the cheapest price, it was cheaper than that and no shipping. I just had to show up in a giant box truck to get it all. Alright, step 1, clear the workspace of all of this leftover metal from the last time. Move my junk. Many of these tools I use, many of them I haven't. Big floppy piece of metal. For this part, I'm going full Michael Jackson with the single glove. That's because this creates 2 edges pointing upward that are nice and sharp. They're like, I don't know, burrs designed to slice you up. So I'm going to hold the edge of the metal with this, stop it from moving, and cut with this nice and easy. Maybe, in theory. Smash! And there we go. Nice cut. And again, the little spiral, razor sharp spiral. Good times. If only this was aluminum, I could add it to the pile of crap I want to melt. Snip it off. Ding, and now it's on the floor for me to step on and get shards of metal on my foot. Good idea. Next cut is this one. I'm going to cut this, then this, then this, then finally this. And that'll give me the maximum number of pieces out of this size chunk of the sheet, I think. Only slightly more to go. And off the ground. Okay, now the issue is I have all these pieces that are cut, and I didn't mark which pattern goes to which piece. So, I'll pull all of them out and play a guessing game. Obviously, big piece goes to the big pattern. That's easy. Sort of semi-longer piece? No? Perhaps no. Fender. That was a Fender piece. Awkward piece, just had this kind of sloppily landed in the middle there. And lastly, excellent. Looks like they all fit. So this one, I'll just do this one first because it's the bottom of the pile, and it's right here. I shall secure first my pattern to the metal with tape. Very, very high tech here. Now I mark it out. I'm going to use this Sharpie. Problem with this Sharpie is that it's got this nice fine point, makes a nice bold line, but this metal is covered in oil. So the oil gets on this, and it also stops this from writing so well, as it turns out. So, problem defined. This is now pretty securely placed. I can also do this along the edge, which will sort of follow the pattern nicely, but this pattern is made out of paper. And the paper isn't very stiff. So this line, it may work for these short pieces, but it's not going to work for this long edge. That's where I need to use the ruler. And yes, there's a footprint. I was walking all over these. They were on the floor. Quit judging me. And there, a nice straight long line at the edge of the pattern. Good news. Now I just got to do it on all of the rest of this. Now, fold this away. Ta-da! It's outlined. Now I have some fold lines, if you remember right. Where? This was a fold line, this was a fold line. I don't think this was. Was it? No, that wasn't a fold line. And you might think I can fold nice and easily from that edge to that edge. I like to add some more points of reference. So what I do, I take the scratch awl, take this non-marring crappy hammer that's really no good for anything else, and make just a couple of dents directly on the line there. And now, with the pattern gone, they might not show up, but they are there and I will be able to see them. I find this particularly important with this kind of a piece. This is going to be bent down along an edge, a very sharp radius there. And you can kind of see that I divoted. Focus! Focus! There we go. Kind of did those all over the place to guide me. And they even come through to the other side, which is kind of nifty. Now there are tools to do that other than a hammer and an awl, but I'm broke and I'm saving for a welder, so, you know, this works too. Now for cutting, I'm going to remove the pattern, add it to my pile of discarded patterns for filing later. I'm going to save those patterns in case the kid crashes this thing. Back to the snips and the single glove, and let's get shearing. Sounds like I'm shearing sheep. And if you're wondering, yes, I have sheared a sheep. Sheep doesn't seem to mind, but he was tied up, so he didn't really have a choice, did he? See, that cut was a little too far to the right, and because this flange bends up and goes into a part, it doesn't matter. Moving on. Nice big long one. I got to be careful to keep these ones straight. Alright. That's pretty straight. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell, but it's not terribly horrible. One thing you got to be careful with, your finger will rub the Sharpie right off because of the oil. Now for these little cutouts, I go back to the hand snips. Line it up nice and careful. Now if you remember, the Sharpie line was on the outside of the pattern, which means I should cut off the entire Sharpie line. Not the middle of the Sharpie line, not leave a Sharpie line. Cut out the inside of the Sharpie line. Little bit. Come on, ding. Goodbye. Moving on. So remember in an earlier episode when I mentioned my fingers occasionally going numb? Well, I went into the doctor, had some tests done. Turns out I am fully human, but I have carpal tunnel, both hands. And on the right side, ulnar nerve damage. So who knows what's going to happen with that. But I probably shouldn't keep doing this. But hey, they can fix carpal tunnel, right? And for the record, no, it's not from doing this in my shop. It's from work. Work, work, work. Will say this though, having carpal tunnel is much less bad than the test to see if you have carpal tunnel. Unless you particularly enjoy being electrocuted and stabbed repeatedly, I would advise against doing the test unless you were absolutely certain it needed to be done. Ta-da! Done! Then with that accomplished, whip out the file, good old Mr. File, and knock down the burr on the edges. Now I'd like to address something I saw. File teeth only cut in the push direction. If you do this, you're only cutting half the time, the other half the time you're flattening the teeth on your file. Don't do it. Do this. Pick up, set back down, and so on. Done! Except for all the rest of it. And again! Now, if I were Bad Obsession Motorsports, not only would I be making something far cooler than this, I would use this time to make a fast forward of me working and try to get you to buy various things. Bad news for me, I'm not selling anything. Also, I should mention, I am going to be bending all of these pieces with a metal brake of my own design. It's going to be made out of wood and wood clamped because that's what I have and I'm too broke to buy a metal brake. But look forward to that in a future video. Well there, and that's 2 pieces cut. So that's all I'm going to film of this. I will continue working, come back when it's done, and then the fun will start. I hope.